What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video we're going to build a Telegram birthday reminder bot in Python. So let us get right into it.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Alright, now before we get started with the actual programming, I would like to show you what we're going to end up with here as a motivation up front so that you can see the final result. And for this, I'm going to just run this Python script here, which is the Telegram bot, and then I'm going to go into my browser, and I'm using Web Telegram here so that I can record it. You can also just use your phone if you want to test your bot later on. And we can look here for birthday 12345 bot, which is what I called this bot that I prepared for the video. I can click on it, I can restart it since I have used it before, and you can see it greets me with hello world. Then I can just say /new, and when I say /new, it asks whose birthday shall I remind you of. Let's say I want to be reminded of Mike's birthday, and the birthday happens to be today, so 2022, 12/30. Then it says, I will remind you, and in a certain time interval, this was now quite quickly. Sometimes it can also take longer. It will tell me, okay, it's Mike's birthday today. And of course, if I pick tomorrow, it's going to remind me tomorrow that it's Mike's birthday today, and so on and so forth. I can repeat that process. I can say, I want to be reminded of Bob's birthday, and Bob's birthday is tomorrow. So 2022. 12/31, then I would be reminded tomorrow. So right now I will not get a message that it's Bob's birthday today. And also when I'm reminded that particular instance, that particular birthday is checked off in the system. So the flag is set and it knows that it doesn't have to remind me again until next year. That's the basic idea of the bot, and this is what we're going to build today. Now, to get started with all of this, we're going to first create a database, and in this database, we're going to keep track of the birthday reminders. So we're going to have the names, we're going to have birthdays, and we're going to also have the users that need to be reminded of those birthdays, because we want to handle multiple different users, and we don't want to remind all the users of all the birthdays. We don't want to just broadcast a list of birthday reminders. We want to only notify the users about birthdays that they have set a reminder for themselves. So that's the idea. This requires some advanced programming logic, because otherwise we could just keep track of birthdays and names and then broadcast them to all the users that are subscribed to the bot. But that's of course not very user friendly. So let's get started by creating a new file, calling it create_database.sql. And here we're going to just create a simple structure. We're going to have one table, create table user, and all we want to have here is a simple ID, which is going to be an integer, and a primary key. And then we also want to have a table birthday_reminder. And here we want to say that we also want to have an ID, integer, primary key. Then we also want to have the birthday itself, so the date, and this is going to be date, and it's going to be not null. And then we also want to have the name, which is going to be a text and not null. And then we also want to have a flag which says, have I already reminded this person or not? So we're going to say reminded, and this is also going to be an integer, because as far as I know in SQLite 3 there is no boolean, we only have integers, so we are going to say 0 or 1 here. And then we also want to say alter table birthday reminder, and we want to say that we're going to add a column which is going to be a foreign key to the user table. So we're going to say user ID integer references user ID. That basically just means that each reminder is assigned to a user. And I created the structure like this. Of course, we could also just add a user ID as an integer field here, but this makes it more scalable. So if you want to have this bot and maybe extend some features, you maybe want to add some information to the user, like, I don't know, some profile picture or some fancy name or some description or some metadata, you can do that in the user table. If you keep it like that, you could also just add this field as another field in here without having two separate tables. But for the sake of scalability and flexibility, we do it like that. So this is the database structure. Now, in order to create this database, we're going to use a Python script. So I'm just going to say here dbscript.py, and I'm going to say import SQLite3, and then connection equals SQLite3 connect. This basically means it's going to try to connect to a file. If the file does not exist, it's going to create it. So we're going to say database DB, and we're going to say with open, and then create script or create database SQL in reading mode as f. We're going to read the SQL code from the file, so f.read. And this SQL code will then be executed by the connection. So connection.execute script SQL. And then we're going to say connection commit and connection close. When we do that, when I run this, you can see we create a new database here. I can double click it and I can connect to it. And then we should be able to see here that we have birthday reminder, SQLite master, and user tables. And then I can say select everything from birthday reminder. And you can see that we get date, name, reminded. User ID as a foreign key here. So the structure is correct. We're going to then close all of this here. And now we're going to get into the coding. Now, what you want to do first is you want to create a Telegram bot. So you want to create a new bot. You don't just have a bot, and you cannot just use a bot without having created it first. So what you want to do first is you want to go into your Telegram app, either on your phone or in web Telegram, and you want to look for the bot father. So you can just search for it. I have it here already. And what you want to do is you want to start a conversation with the bot father. You blocked this user. I don't think I have blocked this user. Let me just see if I can start again. There you go. And it gives you a couple of commands that you can use here. What we want to do is we want to create a new bot. So /new bot, and then all right, a new bot. How are you going to call it, or how are we going to call it? Please choose a name for the bot. Let's say we're going to now say Neural9 birthday, whatever. You can call it whatever you want. Good. Now let's choose a username for your bot. It must end in bot. Now, actually here you can choose whatever name you want, and here it has to be something that is not already taken. I think Neural9 birthday should not be taken, so I'm going to call it like that. Neural9 birthday bot. And once this is done, you can see we get this token here. Probably I'm going to put some stuff over it so that you can not see it, because this is your secret token. Once you have that token, you can just connect to that bot. So if you use that token, or if you provide the token to someone else, they're going to be able to decide what happens with your bot. So if some of you guys take this token now, it's hopefully blurred, but if you take this token and you do something with it, you are able to control the bot, right? So you have to keep this secret, and you want to put it in a file somewhere safely so that no one else can use it. All right, now once we have all that, the next thing that we want to do is we want to open up the command line and install the package that we're going to need for this. We're going to say pip install python-telegram-bot. This is the library that we need to control our bot. And once we have that, we're going to create a new main file. I've already done this here. And here we're going to import a couple of different libraries. Most of them are going to be core Python packages. We're going to start with import threading. We also want to import schedule, which I recently made a video about. We also want to import time. We also want to import datetime as DT. We also want to import SQLite 3. And we also want to import the package that we just installed, so telegram.ext. And then we want to start with the basic setup. So first of all, we want to load the token into our script. Token equals, in my case, I stored the token in the token.txt file. You can also just enter it clear text if you want to, but just keep in mind when someone else has your token, they can control your bot. So you want to be careful with that. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to say open token.txt in reading mode, read. So I'm going to just read the token and store it in this token variable. Then I want to open up a database connection. So I want to say connection equals SQLite 3 connect to the hopefully existing database.db. I also want to say here that check same thread is going to be equal to false, because I want to use that connection in multiple different threads. And then I want to create a cursor as well. So I'm going to say cursor equals connection.cursor. And then I want to initialize the Telegram bot or connect to the Telegram bot. And for that, I'm going to say the updater is going to be equal to telegram.ext.updater. I'm going to pass the token and I'm going to say use context equals true. Then I'm going to select the dispatcher here as a separate variable. So updater.dispatcher. And that's basically the setup. All I want to do now before we get into the main functions is I want to add two empty variables, which is going to be current name and current date, so that we can work with the current values here. They're going to be global later on in the functions. And that's it for the setup. So we import these libraries here and we load the token, we create a database connection, we initialize the Telegram bot, or we connect to the Telegram bot, and we have these two empty variables, or these two variables that are set to none. Now, all we do from here now is we create functions that can be called, or that the Telegram bot can react to. So we're going to say here, the first function is going to be the start function. This is the basic function that we call, or that is called when we start a conversation with a bot. So it's triggered by the start command, or by just talking to the bot, which automatically triggers the start command. As a parameter, all of these functions here are going to get the update and the context. And in the case of the start function, we just want to reply with the simple greeting message. So we want to say update.message.reply underscore text. In my case, hello world. And maybe you want to say something like type /new to create new reminder. That's that. And then now the rest of the script is going to be kind of more complicated than the previous Telegram bots that I did on this channel, because here now we don't just have individual commands. We don't just say new and set name or set birthday or something. We say /new, and that initializes a conversation. And this conversation basically means that the bot is asking questions and I'm providing answers. I'm not triggering commands. I'm not saying set age or set birthday whatever, or set name whatever. I'm saying create a new reminder, and then I'm answering the questions with the values. I'm answering the questions of the bot. And this is a different type of structure that we need here than with usual commands, and this is called a conversation handler. So that's what we're going to implement here. But all of this is going to be started by the function new_reminder, which also takes update and context here. And all we want to do here is we want to say update.message.reply text. Whose birthday shall I remind you of? ? And we're not going to get here an input yet. We're just going to return a value which is going to be important for the conversation handler, and this value will indicate what function we're going to jump to next. So I'm going to say here return 1, and what we want to do here is we want to create down below, maybe we should start with that. We're going to create a conversation handler, conv handler, and this is going to be equal to telegram.extension or .ext.conversation handler. And in this conversation handler, we want to have an entry point. So entry point is going to be equal to, and we're going to pass a list here, and the list is going to be telegram.ext.command handler. The command is going to be new, and it's going to be connected to the new reminder function. So the basic idea is when you create a Telegram bot, you have command handlers that map a command, so /new, to a function, in this case, new reminder. So if I just have the command handler without this conversation handler, this means that when I say /new, I'm going to be running this function here. So this is also how we do it with the start function. So what you want to do to add the start function to the bot is you want to say dispatcher. So disp.add_handler. You want to say telegram.ext.command handler, and you want to map the start command to the start function. This is how you do it. Now we do this here inside of the conversation handler because the /new command is going to trigger that function, and this is going to be the entry point to that conversation handler. So after we have the entry point, we also want to have the states of this conversation handler, and the states are going to be a dictionary, and the dictionary will map one value to another handler. So I'm going to say 1, the value 1 is going to be mapped to telegram.extension.message handler in this case. And message handler basically means we communicate, and we're going to say that this is going to be a telegram.extension.filters.text. So we're going to enter text, and we're going to specify a function here that we don't have yet. So I'm going to just say pass, or maybe pass is not the right thing. Let me just create 2 empty functions here, def get name, pass, and get date. And we can specify them here. So get name is going to be one function. The basic structure here is we have a conversation. This conversation is initialized by the new command, which runs this function. Now, this function returns 1. The start function doesn't return anything, but this function here returns 1. And this 1 is important because this 1 here indicates that now we're jumping to state 1. So whatever I return here in the entry point will mean that I run this state. I get into this state next, and this state basically means that I'm running the message handler with this filter here, and it's running this function. We're going to implement it here. We haven't done this yet. But then I also want to have a state 2, and the state 2 will be also telegram.extension.message handler, telegram.extension.filters.text, get date. So that's the basic idea. We have these 2 states here, and those states are mapped to those functions here, to those message handlers. Now we also want to have fallbacks, and fallbacks basically means that we want to have something that we can run when everything is canceled. So we can say telegram.extension.command handler. Cancel is going to be connected to a function cancel that we don't have yet. So I'm going to define it, def cancel. We're going to pass here as well. But that's the basic structure of the conversation handler. We have a conversation handler. It's initialized by the command. We have these 2 states that are handling user input. And then we also have, if anything goes wrong, this cancel command handler fallback. And then we also have the start handler here. Now to take this handler and actually add it to the bot, we need to say disp.add_handler conversation handler. But that's basically it. Now let's get into those functions here that are actually handling everything. And what we're doing in the first function here is, remember, we start with this. We ask whose birthday shall I remind you of. We pass the state 1. State 1 triggers this function here. And here we also want to have, of course, an update and a context. And what we want to do here is we want to say that the current name is a global variable. So this is the variable that we defined up here. Current name, global variable here, so that we can change the value of current name in that function. We're going to say current name equals update message text. And the reason why we can do that is because that is a message handler and we have this text filter here. Because of that, we have some user input, which is going to be that. Update message text is whatever the user inputs in this message handler. And then as a result of that, we're going to say update message.reply text. When is the birthday? And the format is going to be year, month, date. And then we want to return to the next state. So we want to say return 2. So we jump from new reminder to 1. 1 is this. And then we do stuff, and then we return 2. 2 jumps into the next state, into the state 2, which is going to trigger this function. Here also we take an update and a context, and now we need to process the date. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say global current date, which is the other variable that we had. But also here we need to then take the final result, and we need to put it into the database. So we also want to make the cursor global. And we then say current date equals update message text. So the same thing as for the name. But now we also want to get the user ID. So who is actually asking for the reminder, because we need to put that into the database as well. Otherwise, we don't know what we're talking about. We don't know who we want to or who we need to remind when this person has, when is this person's birthday. So what we want to do is want to say user ID equals update the message, and we want to get who is this message from, which chat does this message belong to. So chat underscore ID, user ID is going to be update message chat ID, and then we want to say cursor.execute, select everything from user where ID equals question mark. So we're going to do a prepared statement here, and we're going to input user ID as a tuple. This is very important. This takes a tuple. So if you want to pass just one value, you need to add a comma here. Otherwise, it's going to be recognized as a single value, but you want to pass a tuple. So you execute that query, and then basically you say, okay, if not cursor.fetch1, so if there is no entry, we're going to create this user. So we're going to add this user to the user table. Otherwise, it's already there, so we don't need to do anything. Cursor.execute, insert into user the ID, values, and then again a question mark. The question mark is going to be the user ID as a tuple again here. Again, the basic logic is we check if that user is already in the database. If not, we add it to the database. That's the basic logic here. And then we want to also add the actual birthday reminder. So cursor.execute, insert into birthday reminder, not main.birthday reminder, but just birthday reminder. The values user ID, name, date, and reminded. Want to add the values question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. And we want to add them here. So it's going to be the user ID, it's going to be the current name, it's going to be the current date, and it's going to be a 0 because we have not been reminded yet. Yeah, that's basically it. And of course we need to close this with, no, actually we don't need to close this with quotations because the quotations are here and those are just the values that we put in. So we can actually maybe add a line break for the sake of readability. So we insert into the table of the reminders, the user ID, the name, the date, and whether we have been reminded or not. 4 values, those values down here, 0 for reminded because the user has not been reminded yet. So then we're going to say connection commit so that we actually have the changes. And then we're going to say update.message.reply text. I will remind you. And then we're going to return a Telegram extension conversation handler.end, indicating that the state that we're getting into after this function is going to be the end state. So we're not going to do anything anymore. That's the basic idea here. Now, the only thing that's missing here is we need to have something that actually does the reminding. So now we have everything. We have something to start a conversation. We have something to create a new reminder. We have this conversation handler that creates the new reminders. And we have all this set up. But we also need something that says, okay, check the reminders on a regular basis and remind all the users that you need to remind. And for that, we're going to create a new function down here. We're going to call it do_reminders. And we're going to say while true, so an endless loop here. We're going to say today is dt date dot today. And we want to take this and format it as a string, and the format shall be y m and %d. So that's basically year, month, day. And what we want to do now is we want to check if there are any reminders for this day. We're not going to consider the year, but we want to say, are there any reminders for this month and this day that we have not handled yet? And for this, we're going to say cursor.execute, select everything from birthday reminder, and we're going to use the string format time day. Actually, we need to use single quotations here. The day of the date is equal to string format time the day of now. This is a keyword, so we're going to say here now as a string. And we also want to have that the string format time, it's getting messy here with all these quotations, %d, actually not d, m of now, or of the date first, is equal to the string format time %month of now. And in addition to that, reminded shall be equal to 0. So let's recap real quick. We select everything from the reminders where the day of the date and the day of now, of today, is equal or are equal, and where the month of the date and the month of today or of now is also equal, and where the reminded flag is set to 0. That's the basic idea. If we find something here, we're going to say rows cursor.fetch all. So for all the rows we find here, for all the people that have their birthday today and where the user was not reminded of it yet, we're going to say for row in rows, the row ID is going to be 0. The name is going to be 2. The user ID is going to be, row 0, row 2, and row 4. This is just the positions of the individual fields in the table by default. We are going to extract those values, and we're going to then say updater.bot.send_message. The chat ID that we want to send a message to is going to be the user ID. This is why we need it in the first place, because we want to be able to send a message not just as a reply, because here we do it always with message, message reply text. We also want to send it proactively. So we just specify the ID and we're initializing a message even if we don't get a message from the user first. And then we want to say that the text is going to be a formatted string, it's, and then name's birthday today. That's it. And then we want to also execute update birthday reminder set reminded equal to 1, where the ID is equal to question mark, and the question mark is the row ID as a tuple, which is why we extracted it in the first place, so that we can update this value here. And then finally connection.commit. And in the end, we want to say time sleep. And I'm going to do here 10 seconds so that we can see the results, but you can actually do something that's more reasonable, like once every 5 hours or something. So we can do 60 times 5 or 60 times 1. That would be a possibility here. Now, I actually notice right now that we probably, do we need to schedule? I'm not sure. Let me just see if I use the schedule in my prepared code. Otherwise, it's just, no, I actually didn't use it. So it's an import that we don't need, but we are going to need threading because this needs to be run in a second, in a separate thread, because we need to still handle the conversations and we need to also, do the reminders all the time. So I'm going to do this here. Actually, it's not 60 times 5. It's 60 times 60 times 5. If you want to do it on an hourly basis, if you want to do it every 5 hours. But we're going to do it every 10 seconds. And I actually think that we don't even need this one here. So let me just comment this out. This is also probably something from the prepared code that I did not ended up needing. I also don't think that we need the date time though. So actually we might only need threading time SQLite3 and telegram.ext. And we're going to need threading because we need to run the reminder function in a separate thread. So threading.thread, the target is going to be do reminders. and we're going to start this thread right away. And then we're going to start the bot itself in the main thread. So updater start polling, and then updater.idle. That is our Telegram bot. This is all we need to do. Let's just recap real quickly what we're doing here. We're loading the token. We're creating a database connection. We're setting up the bot. We're creating 2 global variables that we're going to use later on. We're having this basic start function that just prints a greeting message. We have this initialization here, this function new reminder, which says whose birthday shall I remind you of. Down here we have the conversation handler where this is the entry point, and we have the different states 1 and 2 mapped to the function get name and get date with the message handler that allows for text input. So you can see we have the new reminder that returns state 1, brings us to this function, asks for the birthday, returns state 2. Here we get the date, and we check if the user already exists in the database. If not, we create it. Otherwise, we just add the reminder to that respective user. We commit, we say I will remind you, and then we have this do reminders function that constantly checks in the database if there are any birthday reminders that have not been processed yet. And then it processes them and sets the reminder to 1. Then it sleeps, in this case for 10 seconds for demonstration purposes, but usually you would do something like every hour, so 60 times 60, 60 seconds times 60 minutes. And yeah, that's it. You have the handlers, you start the reminder function in a new thread, and then you start the bot. All right, now let's run it and see if it works. We're going to just run this main file here, and we're going to go to Telegram. We're going to search for Neural 9 birthday bot, and I need to go to chats. There you go, Neural 9 birthday, and I can start a conversation here. And then it says, hello world, type /new to create a new reminder. I can even click on /new. Then it asks, whose birthday shall I remind you of? Let's say Anna. And then we're going to say 2022, 12th, 30th. So today I will remind you. Okay, we reached the loop, or the timer was the timer refreshed immediately. So we had the immediate reminder. I can also just go ahead into script and say that I want to have 30 seconds of delay here. And unless we're very lucky, we would have to wait more for the response. So I run this again. I can say /new again. I can say Mike again this time, and 2022, 12:30. I will remind you. And now we will have to wait for the reminder to come. And of course, if you set this to an hour, you're going to have to wait something between 0 seconds and 1 hour to be reminded, but you will get a refresh. It will refresh every 60 minutes. So you would always be up to date. If you look on your phone at least once per hour, you would not miss the birthday reminder. And you can see it's Mike's birthday today. I can also just close this bot here. I can just stop it, and then I would not be able to converse with it anymore. So if I say /new, you can see nothing happens. The bot has to be running. I can run it again, and then it would answer, whose birthday shall I remind you of? So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.